You've got your, what should we call it? Textbook on, well, not really, but you've got your textbook online. Yes, with OneNote, I had put everything in the wrong spot. So hopefully, if we can find it, to go to the content, I think I had put it in collaboration space before. So if we go to content, we've got linear graphs, which is what we're doing now. Thank you. Linear graphs, right at the beginning, we've got our outline. So we haven't started any of this yet. The stuff we were doing last lesson was, I'll be your scribe, was midpoint, distance and slope. So a little bit of revision from last year. And we got into some nice algebra with it. Oui? So I shouldn't have to ask you, open your book and get your laptop up, right? You're the only one. Come on. Come on, Billy. Come on. So please, let's make sure that we are happy as Larry. For those who have been absentito, you're going to be okay. We'll be able to go back and catch some of that stuff up. It'll rear its head as we go along, but it's basically using our 3 formulas, distance, slope, midpoint. Oui? Okay, so I think, and I'm doing this with my methods at the same time, so please tell me if I'm assuming things that is incorrect. I thought we left off with this one, and I've even forgotten what exercise that was, but with the midpoint and slope and going backwards. Did we get to do one of these? So, whether we can't remember, whether we whatever, we should still be able to do this, even if I just lobbed in right to you and went, right, let's just do this. Because we read this question, and what is key here? Now, what's going on? What is key for this questione? I wouldn't say the 3. I'd say it's a special word. Gradient, okay? Because at the moment, we have 3 formulas that we are playing around with. We've got distance equals, I won't do that there, I'll put it to the side. And you shouldn't have to write this down because it should already be in your book. People who weren't here, obviously, yes, you can write it down, but you can, I think I did a video that you can go back and have a look at. But we've got distance, difference between your x values, squared, and it's the difference between your y values squared, all square rooted. Because where has this come from? Marina, don't you dare be writing anything down. I will print for you. Where does this come from? Where have we seen something before where it's something squared plus something else squared that gives you a length? It's right next to Oscar. Pythagoras. Look at Oscar looking around. Right next to Oscar. Pythagoras' theorem, okay? So when we did all of this, if we had 2 points, right, we could work out the length between those 2 points by finding the change in the x, change in the y. Do we remember this? I'm getting blank looks from some people, which is a little bit of a worry because we went through, thank you, thumbs up, that's brilliant. And then we had our other formula, which was the midpoint. And you should all have this in your summary page written down, right? We've got x1 plus x2 all over 2 and y1 plus y2 all over 2. And we went, yeah, that makes sense because it's the average, the midpoint. It's the middle between the 2. So we add them together, divide by 2, right? Nodding, Billy. 1, it makes sense. 2, do you remember a little bit from last year? It's stuff that we already did, one hopes. Ooh, shall I be bold and go red? Even though my mother told me writing in red is unlucky. I'll be bold. Oh, green and blue. Blue and green should never be seen without another colour in between. So, first thing, my mother says a lot. First thing is we go slope/gradient, represented by M. Anybody can tell me why? I'll give you a chop. Anyway, who can remember, those who are here, the formula for slope? Right, back in the day when you first learned it, it was rise over run. Your science teachers look very professional when they go, ooh, change in x, that's what the triangle means, change in x over change in, oh my God, change in y, which is your rise, over the change in x. Capiche? And we, as maths people, the book writes y2 take y1 over x2 take x1, and it doesn't really matter because it could be y1 take y2 over x1 take x2. Oui? So, knowing that, here comes the green. Knowing that, when we get a question like this, we can't do them all. Shall we do maybe D and E, the last two? Who's done these, by the way? Excellent, hey? So we'll just recap. We'll do D. People can, once I stop blabbing, you can go back. D. The key here is gradient. And we have a gradient formula. So all we're going to do is follow it. Would you agree? Have you done this? So we're writing now, hopefully without a magic finger. Sorry, Addie, what exercise was this? Yeah. 11C2. Thanks, man. You did it! You champion. I think we finished some of this in class or started in class. Yeah. So we're just recapping, refreshing your memory because some of you are going a bit blank. But again, if we just gave you this, it's not that you have to memorize anything. You go with, hey, formula. So the slope, we will go minus 3 over 5. And now we're going to go y1 take y2. Psst, Finn, we write? Yep. So what would I write now? The rise. Now you could just blindly go in. I know I want to have t, that's my x, so I'm going to label x, y, x, y. I want it to be t take 4 downstairs. It doesn't matter if you write 4 take t, I just like to have my unknown first. I'm fussy like that. But if you had 4 take t, it doesn't matter. Because I've started here, that means it has to be 9 take 7 on top. I can't switch them. You understand that? So if I've gone t take 4, I cannot say 7 take 9 on top. I've got to go 9 take 7. Makes a difference. All right? And now, who can remind me, what do we do? Yes, cross multiply. And we were careful to give the minus to one of those numbers. Right? You can't just leave it out the front and give it to both because then you change it to being positive. Correct? So we multiply now. It becomes minus 3. 9 take 7, 2, 5 2s are 10. And are we happy that we could solve this now? This one hurts my ears. Okay, so we'd expand, concentrating, minus 3t equals minus 2. So then we've got 2 over 3. All groovy? All right. I do believe I asked you to have a go at 4, but I could have been making stuff up. God, my memory is good. I think I go kaput, but no. So how did we go with 4? All right. So I can come around and check, peeps, if you had an issue. Yeah, this was for homework. That's what I'm checking. But some people looked at it after Daymap had crashed. So then they couldn't get it. Great excuse for not doing your homework. Look at that. You had an out and you didn't take, well done. Did we? Might have. Oh, well then you should have done it. Okay. So, what we want to go on with, and again, people who weren't here, that's okay. You will be able to stay with us for this because we'll recap some of that stuff. So, we want to combine some of this distance, midpoint, and slope to pop it into problem-solving situations. Is that okay? So I'll help those people who haven't been with us. We'll go a bit slower, right? The rest of you can sort of onward you go. So this is what we actually wanted to start this topic with. So combining 11D, one that I prepared earlier. Ooh. So with our summary page, we discussed parallel and perpendicular. So when we've got parallel, what does that tell you? Would distance help us if something said two lines were parallel? No. Would midpoint help us if two lines were parallel? No. So, slope, what does it mean? Same slope. If they're parallel, same slope. Agreed? And perpendicular, I know, freaky, hey. So perpendicular, I probably won't ever write perpendicular again. That's what our symbol is for perpendicular. What was the deal with perpendicular slope? We didn't do that? Excellent. So let's have a think. Tell me, what do you think? We'll make it more obvious. You don't remember anything about perpendicular slope? All right, that's curvy, but it's meant to be a straight line. So if that was a line, what would you say about the slope? Positive or negative? Positive. Okay. And give it a value, like you're just making it up. What would it be? It's reasonably steep. Yeah? 2? Okay. So let's say this one has a slope of 2. Its perpendicular slope, what do you notice straight away? Well, right angle means perpendicular, absolutely. What else do you notice about the slope? It's the opposite, going the opposite way, and so it is the opposite sign, right? So this one is positive, but now this one has to be negative. This one, you would say the red is quite steep. What would you say about the black line? Not as steep. So hopefully, would it come as any surprise to you that to get the perpendicular slope, you flip and reverse the sign? So if I've got a slope that is 2, and let's say that means it's 2 over 1, the perpendicular slope will be minus 1 over 2, right? You flip, you reverse the sign. Is that coming back to you a little bit? Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. It's all right. I'll do that with my eyes, but that's okay. Now, fancy pants, so flip and reverse the sign. Do you want to hear the fancy maths? The negative reciprocal. Whoa. It just means flip and reverse the sign. Okay? So if I had a slope of minus 4/5, what would be the perpendicular slope? Positive 5 over 4. Well done. Some people go negative 5 over 4 and you go, no, still keeping it negative. Got to reverse the sign. So good. Happy days? So if you want to write a little note in your summary page, right, that we have to make sure, I don't know how to move it now, I hope it's that one, that to get your perpendicular, can't move it. I don't know what I just did. Oh, I can move it. There you go. To get your perpendicular slope, negative reciprocal. So if I've got A over B, then the perpendicular slope is minus B over A. Anybody want to tell me if I multiply those slopes together, what do you get? What's 2 times minus a half? Minus 1. Well, 1 is not the same as minus 1. Right? Negative 4/5 times 4/5, they cancel, you get minus 1. So when you multiply a slope by its perpendicular, you should always get minus 1. Do you agree? Okay. Well, I think that you should write, this is what we just said, put something in your notes so you would know, because we're going to ask you what is the perpendicular slope for things like that. So you might remember today, but come next lesson or next week, oh, where can I go? I strongly recommend going to Woolworths in the stationery aisle. They have these cute little, like, books, half of an A4 wk4 book that you have there. It's very cute, and you put all your notes in there. Marriotteville will have them on their book list. So yeah, Marriottville. So you have your workbook, and then you have this summary book. And you take it from year to year, and you add to it. It's so good. Anyway, I'd buy it all for you, but I just cannot. There's too many of you. Would you find the gradient of all lines perpendicular to a line with gradient of? So I don't think we have to write this down. Where shall we start with? Who would like to volunteer? What would be the perpendicular slope of a half? -2/1. B? -5/2. Oops. Now, by the way, don't do this. I will go tropo. Why? You're basically saying like 7 = 4. No. So if you really want to, what you would do is you could just write perpendicular slope is, I'm not a fan of writing directly in here, is -5/2. Oui? So you don't have to write this down if you don't want to. If you think, oh, I want to write everything down, feel free. Slope of perpendicular slope, -1/3. Love it. Do any of those? Yes. +5/2, +2/7. Ooh. What will you do with this one, people? Pardon? This one? Right, so the first thing you're going to do is change it to a, that's mixed. We're going to change it to a improper. I always forget the words. Well done. Should I tell you what my teacher told me? Well, it's a bit rude. They called it Dolly Parton. Put it in Dolly Parton form because top heavy. I'm like, that's rude. Anyway, so perpendicular will be 3/4. So just make sure that when you have a mixed fraction, you change it to improper, then flip and reverse the sign. So just these little things. Make sense? All good? Okay, number 2. You can read that. Who would like to play? No, Grace. Grace, can you tell me one pair? Can you tell me one pair that are perpendicular? Correct. Aiden, can you tell me one pair that's not perpendicular? Aiden, I think you threw your voice. I heard, Mia. Oh, that Aiden. Sorry, I looked there. I forget I have 2. Well done. So C, you're saying isn't? I would say it is. So with C, we've got the 3/7. So what would be the perpendicular slope? We're looking for -7/3, agreed? So what is -2 and 1/3? 2 3s are 6 plus 1, that is indeed -7/3. So I'd say that one is. Can we find one that is not? I heard G. Excellent. Right? So P/Q, they're trying to get you to go, ooh, let's go fancy pants. What should be the perpendicular slope of that? -Q/P, and it's not negative, so absolutely. Okay, so flip, reverse the sign. Okay, so we are on page, I don't know, but we are exercise 11. 11D1, we're going to do question 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. There's 4. There's 6. But you should have your book because then you can check your answers. I'm not putting the answers here. So don't just look on one note, please. Textbook up and open. Please, here's 2 points. Do this, do that. But what do you notice when you see this thing right here? It's right angle, which means those two lines are? Who said parallel? Perpendicular, right? We look at K. Have they given you the slope for K? So we can't even do that thing we just did at the start of the lesson where we have the slope and then we solve. Or could we get the slope? How can we get the slope?
By working out the other one.
That's right. If you can work out the slope from here to here, if you then flip and reverse the sign, it will give you this slope. So we're basically doing, we're basically doing this question, but they haven't just given us all of that information. You have to actually gather the slope. Does that make sense? So, first thing that you need to do, please, is work out the slope of this line. Go, you good thing. No, you're going to do it. You've got the answers, so you can check, then try and find K. So, who's still a little bit unsure? So, we're working out the slope of this. So, you weren't here last, but you go, oh yeah, slope, rise over, run. So, we're going to go M, change in Y. Does that hurt you if I do change in Y, or do you want me to write Y2 take Y1? I don't care. Y2 take Y1? Yep. Happy to go with the flow. Now, if you've got other things on your mind, right, you might just be, doing other things, then you are labeling. Which one do you want to call X1? And which one, there's no right or wrong answer, right? So which is, Mia, you're frowning at me. Which one do you want to call X1 and Y1? You can either call this or this. It doesn't matter. Right? Yep. So X1, Y1. Some of you are going, why is she labeling? Because my head hurts and I don't want to, mix up the numbers. You don't have to label. So here we go. Y2, so that's going to be 6 minus Y1, which is minus 9. So minus, plus. Now, JP, you can go ahead. You don't have to wait for me. All the questions are there that you have to do. So go ahead. Oh, I see. Oui? Downstairs? So because we went 6 take minus 9, we have to go back up and say 4 take minus 8. You can't stay down here and go minus 8 take 4. So 4 take 8 becomes plus 8. Happy days? Right, we add these up. 6, we've got 15 over 12. Always check now, can we cancel that? Yep. 3 goes into that. So always go your lowest possible numbers. So wouldn't you prefer working with 5 and 3 rather than 15 and 12? Yeah? 5 and 4, sorry. 5 and 4, that's on video now. 5 and 4. Thanks, kids, just checking if you're listening. No, made a mistake. By the way, if I had done all my magic, right, done that, made a bit of a whoopsie because I wasn't paying attention, I got minus 5 over 4. Why should I look and go, I might have made a whoopsie? Why do I know that this should not be minus 5 over 4? Because it's increasing, right? So don't just go, oh, calculator said so, or numbers. Look, see if it's reasonable, always. You're always doing that. All right, so this line has a slope of 5 over 4, but that's not helping me find K. So what is the slope of this line? Yes, so therefore, minus 4 over 5 is the slope of that line. And how do we find that slope? Well, remember we're wanting to find K, right? So, Am I going to put k take 6 upstairs? Yeah. Right? K take 6 and then 14 take 4. I'll write 14 take 4. I wanted to write 10, but you know. Can you now solve that, people? I hope so. We'll end up with the same answer that I get, hopefully, as k is 4. Did you get that? Yep. How come I didn't have to cross multiply? Because I'm looking at my fraction. I go, ooh, what did I do to go from 10 to 5? I divided by 2. So to go from here to here, I'll divide by 2. So bang. But if you just, you said you cross multiplied? Yeah. Did you get k as 4? Yeah. Correct. Right? So, but again, look. Use your knowledge of fractions to sometimes make your life a little bit easier. But if you wanted to cross multiply, you're in the mood, stick with it. Unknowns, because this is what you're going to have to do for homework. What does collinear mean, please? Oops. And I would imagine that a lot of you have not heard that word before, but you are going to do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Eddie's giving you a couple of choices, so you're breaking it down. Linear, you know what that means. Line, walking in a straight line. Right? Linear. And what does co mean? Sharing together. So, would we agree that these points, they are collinear? Agreed? These points are not collinear. Agreed? So, great. We now know what collinear means, but how is that going to help us find out unknown? Again, we're playing with distance, slope, and midpoint. Do you think distance can help us? No, because we've got no idea if they're the same distance, if they're double the distance. So distance, no good, huh? So midpoint would help us if we knew that one of these points was the midpoint. I deliberately drew this like so, because you can see that doesn't necessarily have to be the midpoint, does it? So we're left with slope. Why does slope help us? Hang on. Why does slope help us here? Yeah, so if this is A, this is B, and this is C, if you work out the slope between A and B, doesn't that have to equal the slope between B and C? It's the slope between A and C. They all have the same slope, agreed? So we've got these 2 points. We know them. You could work out that slope, couldn't you? Neela could then work out, A to C. She'll have the slope. She'll have a little equation. It's like the questions we did at the start of the lesson. She could find C. Addison, instead of going AC, she would work out BC. She'll get the same answer for C. Oui? So have a go, please. I want you to finish writing this in your book now because there's no day map. I want you to finish 6 and 8. And I want you to do, I think I'm going to ask you to actually do a question 1. It says show that they're collinear. So work out 2 slopes. Are they the same? Huzzah. They're collinear. All right, I'll write that there. Same slope. This is on Teams. It's here. It's on Teams.